Welcome to Brandworking TV.
In this episode of Brandworking TV, we'll be talking about plastic fantastic and how the supermarkets are going nuts over plastic and what were they thinking. We'll also have a very special guest, Kevin Lloyd-Thomas, with us to share how he beat post-traumatic stress disorder and has a life worth living and is helping others do the same. I'll also share a brandworking tip with you to help you keep on track when it becomes overwhelming with marketing, and I'm on location in the hardware store with the Weekly Rocket.
Welcome to Brandworking TV with your host, Lauren Clemett, from the Ultimate Business Propeller.
In this episode of What Were They Thinking?
In What Were They Thinking, we're talking plastic fantastic and the fact that supermarkets at long last are attempting to do something good for our environment. They're phasing out single-use plastic bags. These are the very thin plastic bags you get for free when you go shopping, which actually aren't single-use. I know in our household they get used for all sorts of things, including storing some of our fruit and vegetables in the fridge. When we've got wet clothes, if we've been to the beach, we put them in a plastic bag that we get from the supermarket. We might also use them for lining our rubbish bins and emptying our vacuum cleaner into. I'm sure in your household, your bags get used over and over again too. However, Coles decided to phase them out. Now that potentially was a good move, except for the fact that they replaced the single-use plastic bags that they gave for free with more sturdy, durable, reusable bags that are actually worse for the environment, and they charged 15 cents for these. Of course, there was an uproar, and Coles decided to charge nothing for these bags instead for a short time for consumers to get used to reusing the bags and not putting them into the environment. Not quite sure if that's exactly what it's intended to be. But let's move on, at least they're trying. So Woolworths did the same. Another supermarket chain suggested we'll get rid of our single-use plastic bags, which aren't really single-use, with reusable bags that are worse for the environment, and we'll charge our customers for them. Now, they gloated at one stage that their customers got used to this and had started coming back and bringing their bags with them. But that didn't last for long because Coles had the last laugh. They introduced more plastic. Yes, they launched the Little Shop, which was basically a pack of cardboard and plastic that cost consumers $4 to buy, and then for every $30 that they spent in store on groceries, they would get a surprise little plastic bag, and inside it, a plastic item that was a mini of some of the food that they were buying in store. Madness. Here was Coles attempting to reduce the plastic in our environment by removing single-use plastic bags, presenting us with reusable bags that were worse for the environment, and now introducing even more plastic into our rubbish. Now, of course, this was a good thing for Coles because this little shop went off and they had so many people coming into the store to buy groceries. They even had masses of people organising groups like this on social media to do swapping of the little Coles minis that they had got for the $30 that they spent. More plastic going into our environment. Worse, Coles then decided to open their stores for these swappers to go and exchange their little bits of plastic. They brought them in plastic containers and they took them away in plastic bags. I'm not sure what Coles were thinking, but they've certainly got us talking. And I don't know why they didn't replace their plastic bags with bags that are biodegradable and much better for the environment, and they don't end up in the wrong places. Abused by a violent father as a child, Kevin escaped home to join the army, serving 2 tours in Vietnam. He left the army and was dumped from a management role after 13 years and began a roller coaster ride of unemployment. It was now many years after active service, but Kevin realised he'd become 2 separate people, the Kevin on the inside and the Kevin on the outside, and that he was falling apart and needed help. Kevin was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and substance abuse. He was prescribed Zoloft and life went further downhill, spiralling into debt, divorce and alcohol abuse. With nothing but nightmares and panic attacks, Kevin considered suicide. This was a wake-up call for Kevin, and from here he turned his life around, getting off medication and learning more about PTSD and how to treat it naturally. He began a 5-step plan, which he now uses to help service people all over the world.
So Kevin, thank you so much for being on Brandworking TV. It's awesome to have you here.
It's really appreciate the opportunity to be able to be here.
Now Kevin, when you were at your lowest, you considered just driving off the cliff into the abyss, and you saw that yacht in the distance. It's all in your book, which is an amazing story and the challenges you overcame. What was it that made you decide life is worth living?
I was at a position where I was about to drop the handbrake and I was gone. When that yacht came sailing into view, it was almost as if something in slow motion passed before my eyes about this is dead serious. I let this go, I'm over that cliff, and I ain't stopping. If I change my mind 10 metres down the track, too late, I'm gone.
Wow.
And it was just like, it was like an unseen punch in the guts, came out of nowhere, and I can remember the breath just exploding out of me, and that's when I changed my mind. I knew I had something to offer. It was like a voice in my head said, stop. You've got too much to offer, Kevin. You can't do this. You've got to tell people about this so that other people don't do this.
Because it's interesting. I mean, you served in Vietnam 2 tours,
Yes.
which is just extraordinary. But you also are aware of the fact that there are still people serving in the military around the world. And we talk about the Australian military, and there are a number of people obviously dying in action. But what's more frightening, there are more people dying of suicide that aren't serving. And that's getting worse.
It's a case where we don't fully realise the process that we go through in our mind. At the beginning, we're fine and we're dealing with everything. But some event or a combination of events then turns the mind around, and we start to doubt ourselves, and we start to relive some of the things that we did. We start to feel guilty about it. And we don't need to feel guilty about it, because that's, you know, we did what we were trained to do. But the aftermath for some people is different than for others. 60 to 70% of people will never experience the symptoms of PTSD. 30 to 40% will.
And do you think that's the problem, that most people, their voice inside their head is saying to them, look, just deal with it. You know, you've been through this, but you're a strong person. Don't be, suck it up.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a problem, that people are doing that for too long?
I think so. And there's all sorts of shades of grey in between. Because on the one end is the stigma, and the stigma we trap in our own mind. So, I can't say, they'll think I'm weak. And so they bottle it up and they bottle it up, and it gets worse and worse and worse. The tough part is this man thing. You know, as men, we're supposed to be big, tough, brave guys. But we're just as vulnerable as anybody else is.
And you talk about the fact that there was the Kevy on the outside and the Kevin on the inside, and almost a split personality.
Yeah.
So it was interesting as well when I was reading your book, Kevin, and talking about your past, and now having gone through Vietnam and PTSD and coming to grips with it, and that light bulb moment that you had, you've now recognised that probably your father, who also served, had symptoms of PTSD.
Oh, yeah. And one of the processes I had to take myself through, Lauren, was that I had to forgive those people who had hurt me so I could forgive me too.
Wow.
And that was one hell of a process. And I got that through a good mate of mine, Sandy McGregor. Sandy and his engineers were the guys who discovered the Cu Chi tunnels in Vietnam in 1965. And Sandy devoted his life after leaving the army to helping people to come to grips with themselves on the inside, so they could be better people, so they can deal with their demons and then move on through life. And it was he who told me, or taught me, about forgiveness, and it was the best thing I ever did. I was able to forgive my father for what he'd done to me. I was able to forgive the guy who owned the business that dumped me, and that enabled me to get on with my life, particularly after that episode of almost driving over that cliff. I was able to reflect back and say, hey, if I'm to move on, I've got to forgive those people so I can forgive me, so I can go down this journey of turning my life around.
So we'll go through in a minute the 5-step plan that you created for yourself and that you now share in your amazing book. But do you think forgiveness is a big part of the healing process?
Look, I do, and I'll tell a little bit about Sandy McGregor's story. He and his wife were separated. They had 3 daughters. They were all at home with another friend when a guy broke into the house. The girls were known to him and he was known to them, and they were shotgun murdered. The 4 girls were killed by that man. He was convicted of murder and sentenced to a long term in prison. Sandy went to the prison to forgive him, and when he was asked about it, he said, why would you go and do that? And he said, I had to forgive him. It wasn't for him, it first was for me, so that I could get on with my life.
So let's go through the 5-step process that you went through yourself when you decided, I need to do something about this. I'm not going to drop myself off a cliff. I'm actually going to face this and I'm going to deal with it. What was the first thing that you decided you needed to address?
Yeah. First question I had to ask myself, if it was something like, if I could have utopia and money were no object, what would I want to do or to be? I had to go back to the time when there was no Kevin on the inside and Kevin on the outside. There was just me, successful, happily married, beautiful wife, lovely home, money in the bank, investment property, all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, slam, my life has just changed radically and there's nothing I can do about it. So, what would I want to do or to be? So to determine what it is, where would you like to end up in life?
So that's the first step, is looking at, okay, this is where I've been.
Yeah.
What do I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
What impact could I have?
Yes.
Because I'm going to stick around.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the next step?
Ask yourself the question, you're in the military, do I stay or do I go? Because if the decision is to stay, then the rest of the steps still apply to you. You need to determine, where do I want to go with this? If I want to stay in the Army, where do I want to end up in the Army? Do I want to be the regimental sergeant major of my corps? Do I want to become an officer? If you're an enlisted man, if you're an officer, do I aspire to be the chief of army or the chief of the general staff or what? To understand where it is that you want to end up. Because when you know where you want to end up, and you know where you are now, then you can establish what steps I need to take to end up where I want to. I got a plan, I got a goal, I got a plan, and I know the steps that I got to take to actually achieve that objective, to reach that goal.
And what's the difference if you decide, as you did, to leave the military? What's the difference with that step?
It's to prepare yourself for getting out, because the civilian world is a completely different world to the military world. Our military world is disciplined, it's structured. You have to be at a certain place at a certain time. That's it. There's rank here, there's rank there. There's protocols, there's detail, there's regimentation, and so on. When you go on the outside in the civilian world, there's nothing like that box that you're in. Okay. So you need to prepare yourself, because it's a whole different realm. There's so much evidence that where people have this experience where it sometimes can become overwhelming, because that discipline, that structure, that mateship isn't there anymore. You're on your own potentially, and it can be a bit of a battle. And some people find it that way.
Absolutely. So even just getting help to adjust to that. And I'm assuming that the military has some assistance for people to do that, or is it just a case of, right, that's it, you've now left and there's no support?
Look, there is support, but this is where the individual needs to take responsibility for themselves. My guidance is, if you've put your hand up and said, that's me too, I'm like that, I better go and ask for help. If you're married or in a partnership and you've got kids, for God's sake, do it together.
So step 3, Kevin, so you've sorted out your goals, you've decided you can either stay in the military or you get into civilian life and you get help to do that. What's the next step in the process?
The next step, and I'm going to use the book here.
Go for it.
Everything is set out here for anybody. So here it is.
Step-by-step guide.
Yeah, the 5-step life plan. What do I want to do, or what do I want to be? Do I stay or go? What skills do I need? You've made the decision, start preparing yourself for getting out, because you're walking out in a whole different realm. This is where preparation and planning is so important. But what's important too to realise, in the military, we get skills that we don't even realise that we have. There's man management, there's leadership, there's communication skills, there's decision making, there's risk assessment and so on. Because, for example, I as a forward scout, I smell something, I see something, I hear something, or just my sixth sense, one of my inner senses says, don't like this, Kev, there's a problem here. I am I am assessing things. And these are skills that you acquire. These have a hell of a lot of value in the civilian world.
Absolutely.
Because these are skills that you get that most of your civilian counterparts will never get.
Have.
They've never had to face that sort of, geez, I've got to make a bloody decision here. I can't muck around.
Under pressure.
Yeah, because this is life and death stuff. This is serious stuff.
So now you've done that. So you've got a forward plan. You've decided you're going to leave or stay in the military or in the forces. And now you've decided I've got these particular skills that I can use. What's the next step in the process, Kevin?
The next step is to actually write your goals down and write down how you plan to get there. Now, you may change your goals several times. You then have to change your plan. But at least we know from all the research into the brain and the mind that the most powerful thing that you can do for yourself to achieve your objectives is to have that picture in your mind's eye about where you want to end up, and then to have your plan to get there actually written down. And one of the things that as I went through this journey after not driving over that cliff, that I realised that I had on my bookshelves and in drawers and cupboards, I had so much information about how to do this and do it well from some of the most amazing people on the planet. But I'd got these books and I'd sort of flicked through them, but I'd never actually taken the advice that they had sitting on the shelf until I realised that that's what I had to do and how crucially important it was, because that's what keeps you on track.
And the final step in your 5-step plan?
Success is not an accident. And sometimes you can get sidetracked, you can be led astray, or something comes from left field that you never ever expected, and it stymies you achieving that particular objective. So how do I go over it? How do I get round it? Do I go under it? Or is there now a different goal that I should have to get me to where I want to get with where I want to end up at the end of my life?
Awesome. Fantastic, Kevin. So you can get hold of Kevin's amazing book, Beat PTSD. It's all about it's your story, Kevin, but also it's Kevin's tips, his steps to really deal with PTSD. It's awesome for someone if you are struggling with that, or if you know someone and you know they could do with a guidebook just to help them through those steps. And you can get hold of Kevin's book at this very address. So thank you so much, Kevin, for being on the show. It's been an absolutely brilliant opportunity to talk about your story and your personal brand. I'm amazed that you have done such extraordinary things in your life and that you are here, and I'm so pleased that you're here to continue impacting people in their lives. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been fabulous. Thank you.
In this Brandworking tip, I'll be helping you keep on track with your marketing in an overwhelming and confusing world. Now, I grew up in the Hunua Ranges in New Zealand, and this is particularly dense bush, and you can be just metres from the track and you can be lost and confused and don't know where to go. This is the camp here where I grew up, and in the background there is the bush that you can see that we used to spend a lot of time in. Now, people used to come to visit the camp and they would be completely unprepared for what lay ahead, and they would very easily become lost and confused, and we'd need to go and rescue them. And it is exactly the same in business when it comes to marketing and promoting what you do. There is so many things out there that you could and should be doing. There's all the different social media channels, there's speaking, writing books, running webinars, networking, and all sorts of different sales techniques that you can use. It's very, very easy to become disorientated and lost. Now, in the bush, we used some tools to help us when we got lost. One of them was a map. Now, a map is particularly good if you know where you are. It shows you all the contours, it shows you where everything is. Unfortunately, if you're lost and don't know where to position yourself on a map, it's particularly useless. The other tool we had was a compass, and the only thing a compass tells you is where north is. So again, if you're not sure where you are and what direction you need to head, what use is a compass? But for those who've done orienteering, They'll know that if you put the two of those things together and you set your compass to north and align your map, you'll be able to very quickly work out exactly what direction you're pointing in and what direction you need to go. Now, this explains the difference between branding and marketing, because your compass is your brand. It's your core values, your beliefs, your purposes, your mission, and everything you really stand for that keeps you headed in one direction. And that's why it's vital to get clear on your brand. Of course, a map is your marketing action plan. It tells you where you are in relation to your competitors, tells you where your clients are, tells you what channels to use, and what marketing is going to be the most effective. But you do need both of these things working together. One without the other is just simply a waste of your time and money. So before you do anything with marketing, first make sure you have a very clear direction for your brand. You know exactly what its purpose is, you know the passions and the direction that you want your brand to lead your business before you think about marketing. Otherwise, you will end up wasting a lot of time and money on stuff that just confuses you and gets you even more lost. Now, if you want to know more about how to get clear on your personal brand, there's a starter course which is free for you at theultimatebusinesspropeller.com.
Time to check out the Weekly Rocket. Hi guys, it's Lauren here from the Ultimate Business Propeller, and it's time for the Weekly Rocket. So what are your opportunities today? Now, I'm here in Bunnings, which is a home supply depot, and of course we're here because when you're building your brand, not just building an apartment or a house or a garden or whatever you're doing, it takes tools and it takes time. So in the Weekly Rocket, which is an awesome tool for you to build your brand, here are the upcoming opportunities for you. First of all, radio guests are wanted. This is for the Small Business Owners radio show run by the amazing Tony Wilkins. Now, there's a couple of hoops you have to jump through to get onto his show, but there's a link in there to contact Tony to find out all about his show. He reaches over 250,000 people online with his show, and it is about small business tips, tools, entrepreneurs, and what you can do to grow your business. So Tony Wilkins is the man. Get in touch with him through the Weekly Rocket. Next one, authors wanted. This is a guest blogging opportunity, and it's with Publishing House. So if you're an author and you want to share your tips on what it's like to be an author, how to be an author, how to publish your book and so on, Publishing House wants your top comments. So there's an opportunity if you're an author to get your expertise out there and help other authors, but also build your brand. Next one, Facebook Live. Facebook Live guest. This is about small business and productivity. The fabulous Karen Bartle is the co-founder of STEMGO, and she's looking for time-saving, energy-saving and money-saving opportunities in small business, and she's holding 15-minute Facebook Live interviews. So if you would like to help other small businesses with time-saving, energy-saving or money-saving tips and tools, then you can get on and do that. So please link on that, get hold of Karen and fix in a time to do your 15-minute interview with her. Next one, home and health experts wanted. So this is Home Essentials for Happier Living. This is a blogging opportunity for you to share an article about how you can create a happier, healthier space, be that home space or a workspace. So anyone who is anything to do with health and home experts, please get onto this opportunity for you to share an article and get your expertise out into the marketplace on the Home blog, which reaches a huge number of people. About 1.5 million people a month go to this blog, so here's an opportunity for you to get your story and your brand in front of that many people. Next one, podcast guest wanted, sharing your story. This is a conversation with Faye. Now, I've recently had a conversation with Faye in Melbourne, but she's also got an online podcast and webinar series coming up, so please get in touch with her. Faye is known as the Queen of the Conversation. She's very curious, she's got an amazing interview style, and she wants to share your story. She wants you to be the star of your own show. So Conversations with Faye, click on the link, apply to be a guest. There's a questionnaire you have to fill out and a little conversation you've got to have with Faye, but you can get on her show if you've got an amazing story you want to share. Next one, call for speakers. Now this is a live opportunity. This is for a convention coming up in the USA. It's for the Copyright and Technology Convention or Conference. There's a deadline on this, but it's a one-day event. So if you are into anything to do with media, communication or leadership, you're a speaker around those areas, and you can help out with topics that would be interesting for people going to the Copyright and Technology Conference. This is along the lines of music modernisation, solving problems with image licensing, the future of copyright, the effects of changes in the European Union's laws, copyright issues around your creativity, anything to do with that, you could be a speaker at their conference.
Next one, young entrepreneurs wanted. If you are an entrepreneur under the age of 30, they want to know your story. This is Celebrate Living History, and they are looking for stories from people under 30 who've started businesses to share your insights and your inspiration. So they're looking for anyone who is under 30 to get in touch with them to share your story and to help inspire a whole generation. Next one, women in business. This is experts are wanted for your comments. This is a really awesome way to get your comment into the marketplace if you're a woman in business. Now, this is the British Franchise Association. They have an upcoming conference and they're looking for case studies and wanting to add editorial information to their digital campaign and all of the work that's going on before and after and during that conference. So if you're a woman in business and you'd like to share your expert comment with them so that you can get your expertise out, this is the British Franchising Association, and they want to talk to you. Next one, podcast guest wanted for the Raw Show. Now, I've been on the Raw Show with the lovely Mike McDonald, and he is amazing. He is looking for interviews with entrepreneurs and high performers to share your stories, your lessons, and anything you've learned about your expertise so that you can help other people. So if you are an entrepreneur, you're in business, you're a small business person, and you want to share your story, it's a weekly show and it's an awesome podcast. Mike's an amazing interviewer and he wants to hear from you. So there you go, there's your opportunities if you want to get out there and be on a podcast with Mike on the Raw Show. So that's it for the Weekly Rocket this week, guys. Loads of opportunities for you to build your brand, just like you would if you're in Bunnings building your business. Make sure you go out there and get it. You have the most amazing gifts and talents to share with the world. So get into the Weekly Rocket and build your brand. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Before we go, we've just got time for some neurobranding insight. And we're going to be talking about the colour purple. Now, neurobranding is how the brain sees brands, and purple gives your brain a particular message. For many years, brands have understood the meaning of purple. In fact, one brand could even use the colour in all of their advertising without even displaying their logo. Of course, the silky smooth feel for these cigarettes was from Silk Cut. Now, lots of brands use purple, and they use it to convey a sense of luxury, that silky smoothness of those cigarettes, the luxury of having beautiful Cadbury's chocolate. It should really be a luxury, not something we have every day. So why do they use purple, and why does it tell us that it's all about luxury, being treated like royalty, and really a brand that focuses on service? Well, this is why. Purple is actually a really difficult colour to make in nature. It's very difficult to find, it's very difficult to dye fabrics and to retain the colour purple because it really can't be found that easily. In fact, in Roman times, when they wanted to dye cloth for the emperors and for anyone in royalty, they had to find 200,000 of these particular snails to make 1 ounce of purple dye. So the purple cloth was set aside for very special people and very special occasions. Only royalty, only the emperors, only people of importance could wear purple. Interestingly, 75% of children say purple is their favourite colour, which is probably why Barney was so successful and so popular. And it also explains why Taco Bell use purple in their branding. Maybe they're doing it to attract the families and the children. But the purple is certainly telling our brains that the food at Taco Bell is anything but natural or easy to find in our environment. So if you want your brand to be all about service and treating people like royalty, you might think about using the colour purple. So that's it for this episode of Brandworking TV. Remember, you have the most amazing natural gifts and talents to share with the world, and you do deserve to be well known, well paid, and wanted.